Hey, good evening, GameChange Nation. We have another one of our great mindset forums tonight with what I think are the best guests ever. My first guest that I'd love to introduce you to is Coach Danijela Tomic, my fellow Croatian University of Cincinnati volleyball coach. Hi, Coach.
Hi, Jack. Hi, Paul. Hi, DMB.
It's great to be with here.
And she mentioned the other two co-conspirators with me in this live
Yeah.
stream that we do. My co-founding partner at GameChange, Paul McDonald, former USC All-American quarterback, 8 years in the NFL, including 6 of those in Cleveland in the Ohio neck of the woods where DMB is located. What's up, Paul?
Super excited to be here tonight to hear all about volleyball and Daniela's story.
And Croatia.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, of course.
Croatia and
I hear that from you all the time.
I'm going to say that at least 10 more times before the show's over, guys. And then our, as I always like to say on every one of our shows, the brains of our operation, high performance mindset coach, Dr. Michael Brown. What's up, DMB?
Oh, it's so good. In fact, I said this offline, and I'll say it publicly. This is my favorite guest so far. Coach Tomic is one of my favorite humans on the planet. This is going to be fantastic.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. You know I love you, and I'm so really privileged and honored to be your guest. So I was so excited today. I posted on social media. I was like a little kid, like this is going to be so awesome. I have no idea what it's going to be. I know we can talk. It's going to be.
We don't either.
It's why it's live. It's who knows.
No prep. I want people to
I have a piece of paper here in front of me that's the script, which by the time I get a third of the way through, I'm going to throw out and we won't even know what was supposed to be there. Well, the first thing I should say is, like, I was teasing my friend Paul here. I always talk about Croatia, and so it's amazing that we have a Croatian guest. And we like to brag a little bit about our country and talk about, like, what a unbelievable number of athletic achievements that Croatia's had on the international sports stage for such a small country. And I had an opportunity to speak with Coach earlier last week, and she had a theory about why she thinks Croatia is so successful, and it has to do with the unity of a small people. So, Coach, talk about that a little bit.
Yes, I have to say so. I am Croatian, but I was born and raised in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I'm very, very proud of my roots. We were talking, Jack, you and I, why it's amazing how many great athletes, great teams we have from that part of the world. And I was saying, I do think it's our collectivistic nature that we love that unity, and it's just it's amazing. I was looking at some numbers when Bosnian soccer team qualified for the World Championships, and that country is the size of West Virginia, the population. And I know Croatia is the size of Iowa, I believe. It's 4 million people. So I'm proud to represent our people, and just proud of my heritage. But I've been in this country it's going to be 31 years in August.
Oh.
So I've actually lived longer in the U.S. Than I lived back home in Bosnia and Croatia.
You were mentioning to me that you thought that the reason why they were so successful is because of the unity, and how that's something you actually also like to impart upon your teams, of being unified. And I think the term you use is life is a team sport.
It is. We unity is one of our team values, and I told my team here that as long as I'm a leader and a coach of a program, unity is going to be one of the core values, foundational core values. The other one that I see as the main foundation is love for us, relationships. But unity is putting, the jersey when you're representing your country, or when you're representing the university. Right now, I'm coaching at the University of Cincinnati. It needs to mean more than just the numbers, the stats. You're representing so many people, and I got emotional just watching. I love to watch interviews and celebrations after big wins, and seeing again athletes talk about how much pride it is for them to wear a jersey of their national team. It inspires me. And I remember days and years when I felt like that. And that's something that I want to instill in my athletes that I coach, that when we all have that alignment and we're playing for something bigger than ourselves, we become better. And I mentioned to you, life is a team sport, and none of us live on an island. And even through sports, I think we learn how to work in teams. And that's going to serve us much, much further in life, whatever we choose to do.
DMB, you've done a class for GameChange on creating championship culture. How important is what Coach just talked about with regard to unity and playing for a higher purpose than yourself?
Well, and it's true. I teach on this, but I learned much of this from Coach Tomic. She actually embodies this cultural value of unity. It's been fascinating being with her for years as the life coach for women's volleyball at Bowling Green State University. And I would just continue to emphasize the fact that unity isn't a luxury, it's a multiplier. So talent will add, but unity multiplies. So small nations like Croatia, as well as great teams, win because they replace, let's say, me thinking with we thinking. And so when identity of a team shifts from individual performance to collective purpose, which Coach Tomic has demonstrated and taught and preached everywhere she goes, everything elevates. So you need to protect that culture and that chemistry and that unity with everything. We cut out, and I'm sure Coach will talk about this, you cut selfishness out of the culture early because chemistry is so fragile.
And I'm going to ask my buddy Paul the same question. So Paul was an All-American quarterback at USC on a team that had 37 players that got drafted into the NFL. It's unbelievable. It's got to be a record for the most players ever from one team to go to the NFL. And they won a national championship. And we've talked about this quite often, about how on a team of stars, there were no stars. And what does that exactly mean, what I just said, Paul?
Thanks, Jack. I was privileged to play on that team. I mean, it was unbelievable talent. But the cool thing about it is the players of character that we had on the team, and they played for each other. They cared about each other. There were no stars because if you got injured, there'd be another guy to go in, and they would play well too because we were so deep and we had so many players that no one could wave their hand and say how cool they are. That includes the Heisman Trophy winner Charles White. That includes current NFL Hall of Famer Anthony Munoz or Lombardi Award winner Brad Buddy. We had all these guys. Ronnie Lott, NFL Hall of Famer, on this team, and it was just it was a feeling that, hey, it's, to Coach's point, that we're playing for something much bigger than ourselves here. And if we can keep that mindset, then we have an opportunity with the talent we have to win championships, and we did.
It's funny. I was just thinking as you were talking, there's something that we take pride on at USC. There's a saying, play for the front of the jersey, name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back of the jersey. USC, quite literally, on their football program, do not put your name on the back of the jersey. It's a tradition they've had throughout the history of USC football, and something we're very proud of because it instills this idea that you're playing for your team and not playing for yourself, which is really cool.
Yeah, we don't have names on our jerseys either. I only had one team, but that's before I learned, I think, a little bit about values. But one of I have so many things like remembering from my players, and Dr. Brown knows we have weekly meetings. And in one of those, this was a few years ago, I was asking, we were talking about what is your big why? And we went around the room, and I believe every player said, I am playing for you guys. I'm playing for my teammates. There were some who said, my family is important, my parents, but majority of the team said, I'm doing this because I love you all, and I'm playing for my team, for you guys. Everybody sitting here, and we had a big run there. That was one of those championship teams. And I always, this is another thing that I tell all of my teams, nobody is bigger than the team. It's we over I, right? And I always say, starting with me, nobody is bigger than the team. And I've been spoiled. I actually had a recruiting call the other day, 2 days ago, and I was talking with the recruiter, and I was saying I've been spoiled that my best players, my best athletes were the best teammates who were selfless and who had a lot of talent, but that character that Paul was talking about was the foundation was so strong that I felt we were just adding and enhancing during their time in college with us. So I have no tolerance. We know we get what we condone, and as soon as we see selfishness in our players or coaches, we include us coaches in this. We address that immediately because it's detrimental to the team and to the success of the team, and I think it can just be so damaging. And another thing I'm going to add, our players, when we would say, okay, we had 6 core values, and like let's choose 3 that are really are going to serve us during the season, and unity was always the one. And I would hear our players say that's our superpower. We truly felt unity was our superpower as a team.
That's cool.
I agree with that. In fact, unity, I think, will transform a good team into a dangerous team because it's that special sauce. It's the magic, because there's so much talent, but the minute you transition from playing with each other to playing for each other, as you said, it is a pun intended, a game changer.
Yeah, it is. And it's alignment too. Like without unity, it's so important for any teams, high performing team, championship team, to be aligned. So to have a mission, understanding what a mission is for us in sports, it is to win. All of us say we want to win a championship. And then when I ask, okay, do we know what it takes to win a championship? I get different answers. So that alignment is important. But I also talk to my players. Unity cannot happen also without strong relationships. So that emphasis on going under the surface and getting to know the people that you're gonna be in a pressure situation, and you're gonna compete, and they're gonna see you at the most vulnerable points maybe in your life. You want to know them beyond the surface. So we invest a lot in those relationships. Being again intentional how we do that, so that unity is more organic, it's not forced.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about on our call last week was the other big value besides unity was love, and that's what you just alluded to with regard to those relationships. Dr. Brown, when he teaches his class for us on creating championship culture, a large majority of what he believes creates championship culture is those relationships that we have with each other. Talk about how it's one thing to say you have to love each other, but how do you actually, Coach, implement that into a team to teach them how to love each other? Because it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually do it.
Oh, it's a hard one. I'll always go back. We define love as choosing to build relationships and serve others. So every value that we have is define what it means to us, because what love might mean to you is different than what it might mean to Paul, and being a part of the team. Again, that unity alignment is important. How do we do it? I first have to tell also when I talk to our team and my young women I coach, not everybody is going to be the best friend. Like there's those relationships happen. There's, they live together, so they're going to spend more time living in the same space, or culturally, maybe they're from the same town, whatever it is. There's kind of natural attraction that some people will be closest to other teammates. But that love to me is at the core that relationships matter. And how we do it is finding different ways. I mean, from we had, and this was actually player driven, that we tell this story to our new teams, is buddy dates. So players organized, when you have a senior, an All-American asking a freshman who just moved on campus to say, let's have a coffee. I wanna get to know you a little bit better. That's powerful. When you're in the locker room and maybe you see that one of your teammates is off, something is not as usual, you go and you say, hey, you start a conversation and you ask how her day was, and you ask, what was your high, what was your low. We had those teams that would discuss those things in the locker room. Our team meetings are a place where we also do a lot of these relationship buildings because of the topics that we discuss, and where our athletes feel safe to be vulnerable and discuss things that maybe scare them. And then, their teammates and coaches are there. So that vulnerability is important. My one-on-one with players, I do regular bi-weekly meetings, so they get to know me outside of the gym. I think at that human level, I'm somebody's sister, I'm somebody's daughter, I'm somebody's aunt, and to see me in a different light than just me being a coach and asking them in the gym to be outside of their comfort zone and push them to be better than what they think they can. I mean, there's so many things. It's hard to, I think, put all in one session. But genuinely being interested in others, I think maybe can summarize all this. Show that curiosity about them, what they're about, where they're coming from, their story, what is their story, and be there to help when they need. Everybody wants to be your friend when things are going well. I always say, my phone is buzzing after wins. I mean, I don't know how texts I get, right? And then it's crickets when you see it. And most of the time it's and I don't take it because I know most people don't know what to say. And actually I've heard that, like, I don't know what to tell you. And I said, just say, hey, I'm here. Like, that's it. So being there for people when they're struggling, I think it's important, not just celebrating and being there during good times, which is important too.
DMB, how important are those relationships to the success of a team, in your opinion?
Well, they're extraordinary. I mean, it's everything. Relationships, and I've said it 100, not 1,000 times, is everything. It's the central foundation for all of life, and for elite performance, and for being more fully alive. I mean, it's interesting. I've watched Coach Tomic. Typically when I serve in a life coaching role within a team, I'm the unconditional source of support for all athletes, whether they're performing well or not, their GPA is high or not, they're injured or not injured. But what's been amazing about Coach Tomic is that she loves her players. I'm gonna brag about you, Coach. She loves her players, not as a means to an end, but as an end in themselves. And her love is not soft, it is strong. And I've seen tough love from Coach Tomic. In many ways, the ability to tell the truth is love, even when it's hard. To check in off the court, not just on it, and to really be that source of unconditional love. I mean, we know this, but the strongest teams, and I'm going to use a volleyball metaphor, are built on relationships, not rotations. And we know this. I mean, we see it. In fact, it's interesting. Players are choosing or to stay or leave, particularly now with the portal and all the different opportunities. Many of them are turning down dollars because of their relationships and their feeling of belonging within these relationships.
Yeah, that sense of belonging is so crucial. And thank you for mentioning our new reality now with the transfer portal. I take pride. We just sent 2 days ago our monthly newsletter that my assistant, Allison Cook, does a great job. And shout out to Ali. I think she's listening to this. And I talked about how proud I am that none of our players who stayed with us through the spring is in a portal. And we only had 2 players who transferred at Bowling Green State University during my tenure since the portal happened. And what Dr. Brown, and he knows this because he was a part of this decision making. I'm gonna correct him something. I love my players. I'm one of the coaches who do not use the term "we are family," and nothing against coaches who use it. I think high-performing teams are conditional. Like we choose each other. They choose us for a reason. I choose them for a reason. And there are conditions to be a part of the team. And one decision that I had to make that was very, very hard was about a player who just did not want to align. with our values, with our mission, and it started creating issues on the team. And I asked for the counsel from Dr. Brown, and then we tried. And then at the end, because I felt this kid, and this is what I told her, I wasn't the right coach for her. She needed to go somewhere else. We were not the right program for her, and she transferred and had a great career and was very good. But I don't like to use the term family, even though love is our foundational value, because I have to, as the head coach, I have to make decisions sometimes to protect the team, because nobody is bigger than the team. And it doesn't happen often in the families where families kick out. I don't even know the term to use that. So I'm going to just say that, and then Dr. Brown knows who I'm talking about, because it was a hard decision. It was a hard decision deciding somebody's trajectory of their life. But
like you said, it was the most loving thing to do for that individual and for the team. So it ended up is a full expression of love when you actually make those decisions.
Well, I can give you my own personal experience. I've only been fired once in my life. And on the day I got fired, I hugged my boss who fired me. True story.
And said thank you.
Yeah, I was not in the right place, and we both knew it. And so the best thing he did for me was he actually made my decision for me. I should have made it myself, to be very honest, but he made it for me. He said, this is not working out. And I knew it wasn't working out. So that's a thing that sometimes that we have to do.
Yeah, it can be done with love. It can be done with care. It can be done with, again, that humanity. I don't think, I'm afraid that we're losing more and more of humanity. And we're seeing, this is a business. We are in entertainment now, in college athletics, but we are coaching young people. We are coaching young people during their formative years. And we need coaches to invest, because I stole this. This is not my original saying, but who we are becoming as the result of the chase is that matters the most. So we can chase these championships. We can chase to be the best versions of ourselves. I think that's the most important thing. And we as a coaches have a big role in this. And again, clear is kind. So being clear, doing it with love. I think that's what my role as a coach is.
Well, the players respect that. The players feel that, and they'll go to war for you, literally on the courts. And I had the privilege of being coached by John Robinson and another really good friend of mine, Paul Hackett, who was my personal position coach, and I would do whatever they said because there was a level of trust, right? There was a trusting relationship, and that's huge. And using the term love, I mean, oh my gosh, that's so powerful to have that feeling when you're out there laying on the line and knowing that, you're going to get coached up, and you're going to trust the person coaching you up that is not going to judge you or ridicule you or, berate you, but they're going to help you get better at what you do. And that the team that I played on in the late 70s that Jack was referring to, I didn't hang out with all those players. We had 95 guys on the team, so there were some players that I was closer to that we would hang out and spend more time with, but there weren't a lot of players that I was really close to, but I respected them. And I trusted them, and I knew that they were doing the hard work, and I saw them doing the hard work, so that when they were on the field playing football, I knew they were going to do their job, and I knew I can count on them. And as a quarterback, that's a huge element, and I think everybody else felt the same way too.
Yeah.
So, but the love element, Coach, is awesome.
Yeah, it is. And Paul, I'm going to say, I think it's a little bit different for women. We like a little bit. It's a little bit gender, where women want to feel again a little bit more connected. And that networking, I think it's different than on a men's side, where you can go hard against each other and get in fights. You're on the field competing. I'm not going to reference now, but Kathy DeBoer wrote a great book about that, and it kind of enlightened me. It was a little bit different how women compete versus men.
Interesting.
And it's a little bit easier to develop relationships on a volleyball team where we have 18 players, over 100 players. I understand that's, I think it's the nature of the sport. It's harder. Well, talking about love and tough love, and I know USC and UCLA, your big rivals, so sorry, but I'm going to mention one of the greatest, arguably the greatest coach, John Wooden. One of his sayings is, everybody needs a pat on the back. Sometimes they just need it a little bit lower. So, that's what coaches do. But I think you're talking about your coaches knowing and how much they care for you. I don't want to be that coach where my players think I'm using them for my own purpose, if that makes sense. And I know coaches who go through career, like I've never had a dream school. I've never had like, I'm going to be here. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to use this team and get wherever. I just tried my best. I'm not perfect. I know I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned from those. Is do the best job, help my players be the best that they can be, and help our team be the best that we can be. And then things worked out for me. And when I hear, young coaches and they're like, yeah, I'm just using this kind of, we can see they have their 10-year plan. Players feel that. I really think players feel coaches who are transactional, who are using you to accomplish something that they want, and nothing wrong with ambition. But I think our athletes should be at the core of why we're doing what we're doing.
Boy,
it's been fun to play for you. It would have been fun to play for you.
Well, I don't know. I think some of my players would say it's not easy, but
I don't mind being pushed. No, we want to be pushed.
Those who want to be pushed, exactly. And
Yes,
I truly hope that they all know how much I care about them. And I don't have it here actually. They're in my office, but probably one of the best compliments I've received was getting a pair of Nike shoes with my initials when I left BGSU after 13 years, and 5 seniors gave me a pair and said, "Coach, you need to have these in the colors of my new school." That was cool. Those relationships and being invited to their weddings now. I have 3 this year, when they want you in their life after college. And I always tell them that I'll be in your life as long as you want me. I'm not going to force anything. And with some players, there's nothing bad happen. It's just we go our own way. But those who want to have me in their life and invite me to the wedding, or they need a pep talk, they need a little bit of Coach Tomic, no nonsense talk like I need coach. I'll always be there for them.
I hope in the future, even if they're not on the live stream, that there will be coaches and there will be athletic administrators, and there's those who work in the sporting world who will hear this and really just internalize and look in the mirror and say, am I using people to get where I want to be? Or am I empowering people to become? Because at the end of you're talking about weddings and you're talking about, all of that legacy. Because at the end of our lives, Danijela, and we talked about this, it does not matter. It does. It was important. The wins were important. The championships are important. The rings and the trophies are important. But at the end of our lives, what we will be remembered for is how we interacted with people, and the strength and the quality and the essence of our relationships. It's the only thing people are talking about at the end of their lives. And we spend so many decades of our lives building the things, the reputation, the awards, the positions, the titles, the money, that honestly do not matter at the end. So I'm so excited the fact that I can know a coach like you and work with coaches who actually say, we're going to do it the right way. And then it will be build a championship team, but I'm not going to use it for my selfish gain.
I would imagine, Coach, that one of the things when you have a relationship with 18 players year after year, we've been talking about love, and you've mentioned being a tough coach at times, but I'm imagining you also see young ladies when they're going sometimes through the worst times of their lives, because life happens and things are hard. And one of the things that I know about you is that when you were a young player in Zagreb playing volleyball, war broke out in Croatia and Bosnia, and it was an unbelievably tragic time for both countries and for all the people who were there. Talk about how you've taken the values that you learned from tragedy and really hard times in helping young ladies when they themselves are going through hard times.
Yeah. I learned about impermanence. That's one thing. I didn't have that word when I was going through that. I love to read. I know it's in Eastern philosophy they talk about it, but everything comes to an end. That sense of there's a finite point. I remind my players. There's 4 years or maybe 5 that they will play in college, and it will come to an end. So really being present and focusing on what matters. Dr. Brown just talked about that people relationships. We remember people how they made us feel, and people will remember us how we made them feel. I don't wish to anybody to go through a civil war. Jack, I told you I was fortunate. I was a freshman in college when the civil war broke out in Croatia and in Bosnia in '92. You learn what's in your control and what's not in your control. That's another thing. That's why I think I'm drawn to a Stoic philosophy, because I think my people back home are Stoic. They don't even know that war maybe, but it's just the history, the life teaches you that. But focusing what's in your control, and don't take people and things for granted. I've learned so many lessons, but I was what I was started to say was protected as an athlete. So I didn't directly experience. None of my family died. There are families who lost everything. I did have my family, my sister, my mom, my dad. At some point, they were refugees, sisters actually, from Bosnia to Croatia. And you just kind of go through it. I don't know. It's I wonder sometimes, like my sisters and I talk, is like, are we just like pushing this and not talk about it? But I just think you move forward in life, and you learn that we're stronger than what we oftentimes think that we can go through hard things. I'll go back again to people. You need people. You cannot go through those hard things by yourself. At the hardest points of my life, going through again the Civil War, I knew I had my family, so I felt that sense of psychological safety, even though we were on different parts of the country. And then I had friends. So anytime it felt like when I needed help, I needed support, I needed somebody to give me a hand, there were people there. And I learned that from my parents. I think, looking back, just how good they were. They had a very big group of friends, and I think everybody knew my mom and my dad. My mom was a teacher, so yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
Is that what you try and teach the young ladies on your team when they're going through a hard time? It's like this shall too pass, and lean on your friends. Like, what are you like? Yeah.
Everything will pass. Everything, I say, hey, what I tell him, like on a cloudy days, right? The sun is there. Like the sun is there. We just don't see it. We'll wake up tomorrow, the sun will come out, right? But we oftentimes, our mind plays, I think, tricks on us, and we think it's the end of the world, and it's not. If we can just accept what's happening as it is, there's often we want to resist, we want to control things, and we can't. Things will happen. I mean, there are millions, billions of things happening right now in this moment that we are not aware, right? But when it happens to us, it's hard. So you got to train your mind. This will pass. Breathe. You got to develop some strategies. Remember that the sun is there. We don't see the light of the tunnel. At the end of the tunnel is there. We just have to keep moving. Make the next step. The next step. Focus on what's in your control. But I remember when I talked to Dr. Brown on his podcast, we also have to remember during good times. Don't take it for granted. Enjoy it. Celebrate. Embrace that. You often like, oh, things are bad. Now I'm figuring out, like, it's ebb and flow in life. And we try to fight that life, like life will happen to us, all of us. The sooner we learn how to deal with it, the better it is. And that's why I think sports as a platform where we can teach young people, and where I learned resilience, where I learned how to accept defeat. I told you, Jack, when we talked, one of my early memories when I started playing club volleyball and my team was losing all the time, and I would come home and cry until one day my mom said, well, if you're gonna cry all the time, I don't know, we'll need to find something else. She didn't remember I did. So you build that resilience. Well, okay, I love volleyball, I better stop crying, right? And then you learn. And sports we have every day in the gym, in our gym. Our athletes fall, and they're literally working on the edge of their ability, sometimes outside of their ability, and they pick themselves up, and we try again, and we lose, and we show up in the gym again the next day, and we say, let's get better, let's win the day, let's create habits that will help us again close the gap where we are now and where we want to go. So that's why I love sports. That's why I've spent my whole life in sports, because it's a microcosm of life. It's like what happens in one season, and our volleyball season is short. It's 4 months. I mean, what we go through emotionally and who we are every year. When I get in the locker room and I talk to my team, the first meeting, I said, who we are now, we're going to look back. Eventually, this is going to end. We'll finish the season. We'll be somewhere in the locker room looking at each other and have last team meeting of the season. And we're going to be different people because of this experience that we are going. We are on this journey together, and every year is like that. And I love it. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's for sure. And it's true, Coach, you said it so beautifully, but hard seasons, they're not going to last, but the person that you become through those seasons will last.
Will last. Oh, I love that.
That's actually where you will become and be forged. And I think, and I've seen you do this, but in the moments that are hard, what is this moment? And I'm going to, as a fellow Stoic, I'm going to say this, but what is this moment trying to teach me? That's the question in this moment, in my injury, in this loss, in this failure, in those moments when I'm sitting on the bench and I haven't been called to the court, in those moments where the coach says what is this moment trying to teach me versus how do I get out of this uncomfortable situation? How do I change my circumstances? How do I control the things I can't control? Those are all questions that they're not bad questions, but they're not helpful. Yeah. The best question is, what is this moment trying to teach me, and who will I become through the hard?
Dichotomy of control, right? And what we control is how we respond to things that happen to us. I mean, that's what it is. And I will always remember this. And I feel I learn more from my players than sometimes I think they learn from me. I don't know if she's on this call, on this stream, but one of my all-time favorites, Hannah Best. I'm going to give her a shout out. We have actually her senior year, and we have our coaches meeting with her. And I asked the question, how can we be better coaches for the future players? You've known us for 4 years. What can we do? How can we be better? If you're asking our athletes to be better every day, we better ask them, how can we be better for them? And this was the only person who gave me this answer up to this point. She said, more hard. And I didn't first understand. I said, what do you mean? She said, more hard. We had a rough year, hard year. And she said, who I became this year, how much I've learned, how much I got better as a person because of the adversity that we faced, that we went through. She said, we need more hard. Most 20-something-year-olds are not going to give you that answer because they want easy. And that's the choice we make, right? If you're going to grow, if you're going to be the best version of ourselves, I don't think easy is going to get you there. So that's Hannah Best is the best, and I learned a lot from her.
Well, the idea about I believe there's only one thing we can control, and that is what you just said, which is our response to any given situation. And it's up to the individual to decide how much they want it, whatever that is. How important is this to me? And they've got to make that. I used to talk to my kids about that. They'd say, well, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Or this is really hard. Well, how important is it? How important? And if it's really, really, really important, like it was for you with volleyball, when you came home crying and your mom said, we're going to have to do something else. No, volleyball was really important to you and you wanted to keep playing. So everyone has to, on their own terms, make that decision for themselves. And that will allow them to keep going. And by the way, the hard times, the challenges, that's why we're here, to encounter the hard times and the challenges. And if we don't, then we're going to be like milk toast. I mean, we're not going to grow. We're not going to evolve.
Yeah. But Paul, I actually, Jack, after we talked, I thought of this. We were talking a little bit more about my experience in the war and my family situation. We have a choice to make during those tough times. Are we going to be a victim or a victor? I think that's where the decision is. Are we going to see ourselves and build the identity of us being a victim? Things are happening to us. Poor me. I will always choose the other one. I will choose the victor because it takes the same energy. I don't know. Actually, it gives you more energy when you build that identity than feeling sorry for yourself. So that's something that's one of my, I wouldn't even call it a pet peeve, but it's very easy to identify people who, life is happening to them and poor them. And I don't have patience for those kind of people.
Yeah, that's well said. And I think without getting
how good is she? How good is this coach? Oh my God!
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I have some thoughts that we can maybe continue off the air about the victim mentality, but we're getting kind of close to the end. This has gone by really fast. So I'm amazed that we're almost at the end of our conversation. When you came here, you were a person who did not speak English, and all of a sudden you were thrown into a university, which I would imagine is a whole different lifestyle than being back home. How did you adapt to coming to a new country and starting all over again to be a volleyball player here? Paul just said it. You must have really wanted it pretty bad.
I did. It was one of those like burn the boats experiences, or like I felt this was. I didn't see the future. I came here to finish my degree, and I still wanted to play volleyball. And I came to Little Rock, Arkansas, of all the places, in '95, and didn't know anything about Little Rock. Well, I knew that Bill Clinton was from there because we were waiting for him to be elected because of the war and stuff. So we were following very closely the U.S. politics at that time. And it was, I remember my parents asking me, like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you don't speak the language, you don't know anybody. And I said, well, I know how to play volleyball. I'll figure it out. I'll learn the language. I think I'm a smart person. So, and that's what happened. So I came, and I was fortunate. I had another Croatian who came with me. We didn't know each other in Croatia. We became friends. We were roommates. So she was serving as my translator for half of first probably 6 months. And I was fortunate. I was studying only English for 6 months and being part of the team. I mean, that's what it is. So my coach, my teammates, you're just in the environment. And I picked it up pretty fast. It's one of the best decisions I've made. And I think there's sometimes, there's a little bit destiny. And I do believe we have free will. We choose. I could have chosen to tell the guy who told me about this opportunity to go and play at the university and college. I could have said, no, thank you, and stay back home. It happened that my dad was actually at that practice when that happened. And I said, Dad, what do you think about me going to the States? And he was like, well, you've already been independent for 6 years. And the rest is history. I'm here. I just, this whole experience in country has opened the whole new world to me. And I was going to add something, decision making. So like if we think a little bit more about who do you want to, what our future self would say about this decision that I'm going to make now, I think it will give us a lot of clarity. And I knew at that time I was 22, so I was a little bit older when I came. I was a transfer student. I knew I wanted to experience something more, and my whole journey, coaching journey, has been that. I've lived in different states, and it's been a great adventure. This life is just, it's amazing.
That was a courageous thing that you did, though. I mean, irrespective of volleyball and you're independent, still it took courage to take that step.
It did. I was a host on another podcast, and I'll be part of the book, but 2 types of people. And I said there are 2 types of people, risk takers and risk avoiders. So I'm definitely a risk taker. I'm comfortable with risk. There's calculated risk. I don't go again, just do crazy things, even though some people would say this was crazy. I like to tell this to people when they tell me, they meet. I've recruited my whole career international students, and when our fans meet and they're amazed. Again, they talk about courage, right, and how courageous they are. And I remind them that there are thousands of other volleyball players who chose not to come to the United States. So those who choose are just a little bit different. Mm-hmm. They do have that courage. And I remind my especially freshman years, like first 2 years, it's rough. It's a hard adjustment for most of them. And when they have that, maybe the lack of self-confidence, and I'm talking to them and I said, hey, you came all over, from I don't know, Serbia, Bulgaria. I coach them from all over Brazil. Just remember how much courage you had. So what we are asking you to do now, on the court, on the volleyball court, just remember how courageous you are, right? So thank you, Paul, for seeing me as somebody who is courageous. I think I am. But none of this, my whole journey was not done by myself. I mean, I had helpers. This is like that hero's journey, right? You have guides, how you meet, and you have this, you got to slay the dragon. And I had to do that myself. And I love to talk about a hero's journey to my players, but I always got helpers on this journey. And that's, again, circling back to love, to relationships, to unity, service. Being there for people and saying, how can I help you?
Right.
What can I do for you? Like when I go and I talk to groups on campus and I ask them to come and support our program, I always start, what can I do for you? What can we do to help whatever, they're doing? When people feel it's a win-win situation, I think there's a chance for strong relationship and for some great work.
Well, I think adaptability, I mean, Danijela, you model this in so many ways, but adaptability is a competitive edge because a lot of players and coaches say, well, this is the way I've always done it. And I think part of being courageous is being curious. You said it beautifully, because things are going to change. You're going to go through change. The question is, everyone's going to go through change. The question is, are they going to gripe through change or grow through change? So oftentimes we're griping the whole way.
I'm writing that down.
And we're going to change. Well, you said it, victor, victim. It's the same idea. It's like, this is hard, but what is this moment trying to teach me? Am I going to continue to adapt? Because if you're like, well, no, this way I've done it, and even I loved having you in the podcast studio. Obviously, we did the episode entitled in 3 Words Podcast, This Will Pass. Well, there's even another one I was just thinking of, another episode that you were not a part of, but it was called Change Your Mind. And that's adaptability. If I believe the same thing at 14, if I believe the same thing at 41 about everything that I do at 14.
I hope not.
Well, but that's what people oftentimes do. It's like, this is who I am, and this is what I do, and this is how I play, and this is how Well, then if you don't adapt and change, you are not going to have a competitive edge. The best athletes don't resist change. They leverage it.
Yeah, I think, Dr. Brown, that's so good. At the core, again, those principles, like I have strong principles, the foundation, what I truly believe in from values, right?
That's right.
But the world is changing. Our environment is changing. If you don't change, we die. That's what it is. Our species will die. And for me, it's boring. Like, it's boring if I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. So every year it's like, what can I do? And my staff knows, they know, like I come with these ideas as like, okay, she's been reading and listening podcasts. Now she's going to talk. and I had to learn how to, I had to learn how to focus on one thing because I want to do all this. Like that's one of the blind spots that I have, that I'm self-aware. But it's more fun. And that adaptability, I think it's crucial now, especially now that we are adaptable. And, I'm getting older, like in my profession where I coach the same age group, 18 to 23, they all stay the same. It's the same age group. And I'm getting older and older for them. So I got to figure out how to connect. What are some commonalities, right, that we can have? I got to know what music they listen, even though I don't think it's as good as ours. But
how have they changed over the years, Coach? How?
I think the world around them has changed. I think I'll tell you one example that we had to work a lot when we came. I had two coaches come with me to Cincinnati. Just technology, phone, addiction to the phone. Like I check myself, like when we are in the team settings, we want to connect, we want to talk, we are not on our phones. Scrolling, I think just again, when we want to relax, we are watching somebody else's life and not living our life. That illusion, I tell my players, it's illusion. Like how many times have I posted something on a bad day, when the clouds are, in my day, and I say, oh, listen, what's happening to me? Nobody, we are not doing that. And then we know the science behind it. It's a dopamine generation. We want quick fixes. It's harder that delayed gratification. And we want to feel good. You cannot scroll. You cannot, swipe left, right, whatever. What I don't like to see. We're gonna feel these emotions when we are again in the gym, when we have that big loss or we win, like feeling. So we are losing a little bit again of that, what makes us human. And but again, I'm going back to what I see as where we can help them in this environment of being athletes, and us coaches guiding them and teaching them some lessons that right now the world is not.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. It is interesting. In the real world, you literally have to sit in it, in the moment. But in the virtual world, you're buzzed, you're flipping, you're sliding, and you're gone. You're gone to the next thing that you want to see. But in the real world, you have to integrate the emotion.
Yeah. And fear of other people's opinion, let me mention that. Again, working with young females, that's a big issue, the perfectionism, and then fear of what other people, especially their peers, what they're going to think. It's real. It's real. And it's affecting not just their performance, but it's affecting their growth because they're so afraid of having real, sometimes what, I call it growth conversations with teammates, with coaches. So we work a lot, very intentional, creating that safe space that we can be real with each other. And being real means we're going to be honest. We're going to be honest. That's how we build trust because they don't have that right now. I'm generalizing here again. There of course, I think some families who are still working on this, but it's getting harder, and they're gonna get. If you talk to my players, they're gonna get it real from me, and they'll know it comes from a place.
That's refreshing. Real is refreshing.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't need nice, we need kind. And you said
Kind.
it.
Yeah,
It's
clear
kind.
is kind. Honesty is kind.
Yeah,
Again,
it's
we
like-
want harmony of honesty. That's I think on a team. You pose that question: what do we value? Do we value harmony or honesty? Depending on what we value, that's how we're gonna operate and behave.
That's a great way to end our show. Harmony, and the values of that. So, Coach, thank you so much. DMB, thank you. Paul, thank you. This has been a really great hour.
I want to come to Cincinnati.
You're welcome. Come to Cincy. I would love to have you guys.
That'd be fun.
We'll be in the front
next-
row.
Thank you so much. Thank
until
you
next
really
time.
for this opportunity. I hope whoever again joined the live stream got something out of this. And if they want to connect with me again, I'm on social media, or they can get my email off of the website. But yeah.
Well,
Thank you, Coach.
best of luck. Thanks for coming
Thanks,
on.
DMB.
Appreciate it.